Megan, now that you are 25 years old, 24,
24, yeah.
it's time that we have a talk.
He's gonna tell me what sex is.
Or you need to talk about the birds and the bees. Have we ever had this talk?
We've never had this talk before.
We haven't?
No, just kidding. We have like
Oh,
5 times.
100 times? Well, it's earlier than we usually record. You know how I'm usually like hilarious and I just, a comedian?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can bring that energy this
I
morning.
know. I don't know if I can bring the energy either. I'm so tired.
Well, we had some goals for this episode, right? Besides learning about sex transmutation. At least I had some goals because we're trying to get better at podcasting. So some of the things we want to try, I was going to ask Brian to brighten my voice a little. We're going to try to record an episode without using the word like. I've already used it once. I heard myself say it. That's going to be very difficult. I don't know. What do we do? I don't know if we want to actually like make a noise or just let it keep going. But that's one of our goals. Not use the word like. And then I'm pretty... I feel like listening back to these episodes, I don't give any opinions. Well, I kind of just ask the questions. And I feel like it might be better to be a little bit more decisive about things rather than leaving everything super open-ended. But also, I don't know, as an artist, I feel like my job isn't really to answer questions. It's more to bring them up. So sometimes I let that artist in me make those decisions. But I'm going to try to be a little bit more decisive, give you my opinion. Okay. And then we want to also do some slick ad reads, right?
Yeah.
Because we've done
Like
just kind of free-formed conversational ads in the past.
yeah.
We're still going to do ad reads for our own things, but we're going to try to tighten those up a little bit.
If anyone wants to advertise on our podcast, then feel free to reach out.
It's $2. $1 for me and $1 for Megan. Oh, Brian should get $1 too.
$3.
$3, and it will read your ad. So, anything you want to say before we jump into this chapter of? What? This is the Self-Help Hangover podcast. What are we doing here, Megan?
Where we talk about sorry, I should rehearse this, but we talk about self-help books and what we think are good about them and aren't so good about them.
Yeah, so we've been covering
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich for like 7 years now.
If you're still listening, you're a saint.
No, this is, no, I'm not saying you're not a saint. You are a saint. But I just want to say, I find this book really fascinating, both because it kind of transports us back into the minds of self-help thinking of 1937. It also was very foundational in my own thinking about entrepreneurship because I grew up in a home of multi-level marketers. My parents were in the Amway business. And despite the qualms and issues that I have with that part of my life, that experience. I think there are a lot of things that I learned and took away that are of value. So I'm trying to kind of review those and sort out the good from the bad, like Megan was saying. What goals do you have for this, Megan? Megan's goal is just to finish Think and Grow Rich and then move on to the
One
next
day.
move on to the next book.
No, my goals are to become better at speaking and yeah, just I mean, it's fun to just do a podcast with my dad. We've always wanted to do a project with each other, so
Oh, thanks,
that's good.
Megan.
Yeah.
So, speaking of those multi-level marketing days, maybe I just want to lead out with this idea. There was back in the day, you had to do certain things to kind of build this business. You had to listen to a lot of training tapes where people spoke about success principles and also just about, well, how to grow a business. How to, you had to show the presentation, and that's called the plan. Show the plan to people, and you tried to set goals of how many people you'd show the plan to. Reminds me a lot of mission, because we had to give a certain amount of discussions, try to do as many discussions as we could. And then, but also there was a component of relationships, and so, and also it was kind of there was a lot of like gender. Oh, I said like, there's a lot of gender. What's the word? Just roles, right?
Roles,
Gender
yeah.
roles being taught. I think there was a lot of kind of evangelical, kind of conservative evangelical influence on that business. I don't know if that's where this came from or not, but there was a common idea put forth in some of the business meetings that you could and maybe should encourage your spouse by withholding sex.
Oh.
like if I would hear several times. I heard, if your husband's putting his arm around you at night and he hasn't listened to his business tape yet for the day, you push his arm back and tell him, go listen to that tape, and then we'll have some action.
Oh my gosh.
Or, if he hasn't shown a certain number of plans, then you can make a difference in your husband's life by withholding sex, or like teasing him with the possibility of like offering it to him if he gets these things done.
Wow.
I think in retrospect, that's kind of a perversion of this idea that we're
Yeah.
going to talk about today, which is the power of sex transmutation. What do you, how would you describe the power of sex transmutation? You read this chapter, right?
Yeah, yes, I did.
How, yeah, tell us about it. What do you think he's saying about it here in this book?
I would describe it as like you are being motivated by sex in like some capacity, like whether that's your like a woman you're chasing or like someone you're pursuing or your partner, like you're motivated by by something, by like a person who you're getting sex from, I guess. Like, is that a good way to describe it? Or you use like the desire of sex to motivate you.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah. So I think it's also using sex energy to create something besides sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says in this chapter that sex is for three things: to have more people, to perpetuate mankind, as he says, to maintain your health because it's such a great therapeutic agent, and the third thing is the transformation of mediocrity into genius through transmutation. Sex transmutation is simple and easily explained. It means the switching of the mind from thoughts of physical expression to thoughts of some other nature. I don't know if I got the whole picture from that quote, but that's a start.
He's very, I feel like, tell me if you disagree, but I feel like it's kind of vague what sex transmutation actually is.
Yeah. Well, I think there's it's in fact a lot of the book in general is telling us about the metaphysical unseen realities as if it were a science.
Yeah.
And this chapter is no
No
exception
exception.
to that because this is again something that's unseen. The energy, we're not seeing sexual energy being used for other purposes, for the creation of a business or whatever,
Yeah.
generally speaking. I mean, we can observe somebody that brings a lot of sexual energy to their life and expresses it in their partnership and also have success in business, but we're not really seeing that energy, the sex energy, going
Yeah.
towards the creation of something typically, unless it's like a really hot music video or something, right? But
Yeah.
let me just read this. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to read that. Da-da-da-da-da-da. If First of all, I think he's pretty sex positive, which is nice
Yeah.
because that in that day and age probably was, I don't know, kind of. I mean, it's still there's a lot of kind of guilt and shame around sexuality
Yeah,
today,
for sure.
and so to have just to read this chapter as a kind of a sex positive chapter, I think is good. He says that sex has to have some sort of outlet, and if it'll build up like a dammed river, but eventually it will break. Now, I don't. I mean, I think that idea might be true, and also it could be abused, right?
Yeah.
Right? There's a if you're like I don't have control over this urge in my life, eventually it's gonna break, and I won't.
Won't have control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not on me. It's on this urge that everybody has, and eventually will break. So I think that's one thing to be wary of. Any thoughts about that?
Um, yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't know. I feel like this whole chapter was kind of like didn't super resonate with me a ton. I don't know. I want to say it's more like directed towards men, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, absolutely. In fact, I was just going to ask you what you thought about this because, quote, scientific research has disclosed these significant facts. One, the men of greatest achievement are men with highly developed sex natures, men who have learned the art of sex transmutation. Two, the men who have accumulated great fortunes and achieved outstanding recognition in literature, art, industry, architecture, and the professions were motivated by the influence of a woman.
Yeah.
So does that apply? Can you say that in the opposite direction?
I mean, I'm curious what more people think about this, about what more women think about this, because I mean, I can definitely like relate to this where I feel like, I mean, maybe this isn't the same thing, but I just feel like if I'm in like a relationship that feels like stable or something, I feel like I'm more like focused on my career or something. I don't know if that's even like the same thing, but
So
I don't know.
are you saying that if you are not in in a stable relationship, then a lot of your creative energy is focused on finding a partner or something?
Maybe, or it's just like I'm just not like focused or something. I
What
just
is it
can't like
about
focus.
being in a stable relationship that allows you to focus?
I think maybe it's just like I just don't feel like I don't even know what it is. It's like I have no clue to be honest. Like it's just like I can just like relax or something and just like focus.
Okay.
I don't know.
Do you find that you are motivated to achieve because you want to be a good partner, or that you're just like, I don't know, like there's some sexual energy for your partner that motivates you to achieve?
For sure there's like yeah, I for sure feel like motivated to like achieve great things because of my partner. Like I feel like I want to like impress my partner or like just do great things because of like my partner and like our future life, I guess. I don't I mean,
But
I
sex
don't
has nothing to do
I
with it.
don't feel like it's sexual, but maybe I'm like I'm sure there are like hornier people than me or something out like who it feels more sexual, but I don't know. Like maybe I just feel like this whole chapter doesn't like super resonate with me for some reason,
Should
but
we just skip it?
well no, I feel like we should talk about it, but it would be interesting to get input from other women like what you think about this chapter cuz I mean, I don't like it reminds me of something I was hearing the other day about like if I don't know why I feel silly talking about this, but if they do like things where they like inject women with like a bunch of testosterone, like the amount of that men do, and they're like, and the women are like, I don't know how you don't just like f everything that you see or something.
Oh, when they're filled with testosterone.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, maybe I just don't have enough testosterone in me or something.
Well, do you think that the, as you put it, hornier people have an advantage over you in terms of achievement?
I don't
Like, are
think
they going
so.
after goals harder?
I don't think so.
Are they exuding more like attractive energy over the social media that makes people add them and, get a big following or whatever?
I don't think so. I feel like I feel very motivated and very like I feel like I'm very like disciplined. And I mean, I guess like and I do feel like a desire to be like perceived as attractive. I don't know if that like counts, but I don't think that people like hornier people have an advantage over me. Like I don't know. Um but I don't know.
Okay, so the you said you wanted to hear from more women about this and what
Yeah,
they
for
thought.
sure.
I also am interested in that.
Yeah.
And so if you listen to this episode and you comment, or if you have anything to say, please comment in a post
Yeah.
on Instagram.
About your sexual horniness.
Well, wait, is that what we're asking them? No, just like if women have a similar, if they're motivated similarly as Napoleon Hill describes the way men are
Yeah.
motivated.
One thing I do like about this chapter, I don't know if I'm
Hold
if
on,
you
one other thing
okay.
I was going to
Sorry.
say is I'm also curious about whether or not gay men, lesbian women similarly have like a motivation, like if sex energy helps them achieve in this way that Napoleon Hill
Yeah, that's so
says it
true.
happens to men.
That's also a great angle because yeah, this book is so like specifically for straight men, so it's like I'm also curious about other perspectives if this is applicable because it's just such an interesting idea. But I was gonna say, and hopefully you don't get mad at me for getting ahead, but one thing I like about this chapter is that it talks about like if you are like about how like well, and I mean maybe tell me if you think I'm interpreting this right, but like he says that like sexual like perversions or like cheating basically is like not like a good thing to do.
Yeah, he talks about the sexual appetite, much like a food appetite or drug appetite, that if it's abused, then it will be to the detriment,
Yeah,
of
but
the
then he also
person.
talks about someone like finding great success because of their mistress that they were trying to pursue.
Did he say that overtly? I remember he talked about one person's great success was because of his secretary. Another
Oh,
person's
maybe
was
that's what.
because of a young lady that inspired him, which I found kind of creepy. I hope she wasn't too
No,
young.
that yeah, seriously, that's creepy.
Um, and then also, I mean, it's hard to ignore the fact that this was written when he was with his third wife, I think.
Oh,
But he does. I guess we can get to that in a second.
yeah,
Oh, you're talking about testosterone being injected into women, and the women being like, "I just want to have sex with everything I see because
yeah,
of this testosterone." He talks about what happens when you castrate a, an animal, right?
yeah,
A bull becomes as docile as a cow after it has been altered sexually. Now, I think a lot of this gives the wrong impression about women. Now, I'm not a sexuality expert, but I'm a big fan of the work of Dr. Jennifer Finlayson Fife, and one of the major principles that she puts forward is that women are equally as sexual as men. And so to compare a castrated bull to a cow, I don't know if it's different in cattle than it is in people, but women have their own sexuality that, and we want to acknowledge and
yeah, for sure.
celebrate that. Are you a visual artist ready to take your art to the next level? Are you frustrated with your ability to paint and draw people? Apply now to the J. Kirk Richards Studio Academy's 2-year art improvement program. Go to jkirkrichards.com/studio academy to apply. Take your artwork seriously. Okay, so he talks about 10 different stimuli. He's like, these 10 things stimulate the mind. And the first one, the top of his list, is the desire for sex expression. Then there's a bunch of other positive things: love, desire for money, music, friendship, mastermind alliance, autosuggestion, mutual suffering. And then he talks about a couple of negative ones: fear, and then drugs, narcotics, and
Mm.
alcohol is what he says. I would say that there are a lot more,
More
and
negative ones.
well, just a lot more stimuli, like powerful stimuli on the mind. Like I just said like computer games. This was before computer games, right?
Yeah.
How much are computer games stimulating the minds
Oh,
of people
they're
today?
a drug.
Like, I just said like again. This is more powerful than the power for sex expression, right?
Yeah.
Because we know that people are having less sex today. And many
Is
people,
that true? People are having less sex today?
yeah,
I didn't know that.
and many people are attributing that to computer games or just
Are you
living
serious?
virtually.
Oh, that's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I should come with the receipts. I'm sorry I didn't come with the
No, that's
receipts,
okay.
but I've heard over and over again that there's less sex being had today,
That's so interesting.
and particularly among young people, which probably isn't a bad thing. But then once they get into adulthood, they don't have the relational skills or the interest in exposing themselves emotionally, being vulnerable with another person. It's dangerous to have a
Yeah.
relationship with another person, right?
Yeah.
It can be very hard, difficult to work through that relationality of belonging to someone else as well as yourself,
Yeah.
and that tension. So it's easier just to have a relationship with AI now. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet, but I hear that they're really nice
Yeah.
to you and validating.
Well,
Right?
have you watched Her?
I did. I love that movie. That was a really good movie.
I was devastated after watching it
Why?
because it's so sad.
I can't remember how it
He's
ends.
okay. He
Well,
doesn't remember it
he realizes that she's got a relationship with
with a
thousands
bunch
of
of
other
yeah,
people, right?
yeah.
And then what happens? They
It's
just
just
break up,
I mean
and he's
I can't
devastated.
remember how it ends, but it's just the fact that like he realizes that it's not like real. It's just so
Yeah,
sad. I was so sad for a few days about it.
yeah. I mean, it's not a movie that's supposed to make you happier, but it was prescient. I mean, it showed what is happening today,
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
So anyway, so yeah, I would add computer games and many other, like in 2025, there are other stimuli that they weren't dealing with
Back then,
in
social
1937.
media,
Yeah, social media is
huge one.
so present in today's world. So here's a quote I'd like to read. A better oh well, I'll read the whole paragraph. Some wiseacre has said that a genius is a man who wears long hair, eats queer food. I think that meant strange food, lives alone, and serves as a target for the joke makers.
That's what a genius was.
He's saying that's what some people think geniuses
It's
are. But, continuing the quote, a better definition of a genius is a man who has discovered a man who has discovered a person who has discovered how to increase the vibrations of thought to the point where he can freely communicate with sources of knowledge not available through the ordinary rate of vibration of thought. So in his science, in his mind, or the science that he's worked out, our minds vibrate at a certain rate, or normal people's minds vibrate at a certain rate, but geniuses vibrate at a faster rate, and that allows them to communicate with infinite intelligence. And one of the ways you can raise the vibration of your mind is through stimuli like sex and drugs and friendship and all of those lists on the stimuli list.
yeah. That's interesting. So he's saying even like the negative ones can also bring you to that to that level.
Yes, I believe he talks about geniuses being both positive geniuses and some negative
Negative,
geniuses.
yeah. That's interesting. I resonate with like being on like a higher sorry, I keep saying the word, but like a higher vibrational thinking sort of thing. I think there's definitely people who I mean I can't even say this for sure because obviously there's no concrete evidence of this, but I think you can function on a higher vibrational level just by how you think and how your thoughts are, kind of thing.
What are the what is the evidence, or what are you seeing, or what have you experienced that leads you to believe that is a higher vibration?
I mean, I just
Or
think also another thing I would put on that list that I think puts you at a higher vibrational energy that's huge is gratitude. I think that gratitude, living in a space of gratitude, makes you a higher vibrational thinker. But I just think, I mean, it's just you see people with are who are just so unhappy, and people who live in the same circumstances who are just happier. Does that make sense? I don't know if like what's it called? So if there are just people who I think are just happier just because of how they think and how their minds, like, they just think differently. They think more positively. They are grateful and they just are living in a higher vibrational world.
okay. Yeah, so I'm of two minds about this. One is that it is good to be grateful, and that we can live a happier life if we're grateful. And also, it is tempting and maybe necessary at times to turn off our concern about the suffering of other people
I absolutely agree with
and the
you.
problems in the world, right? So we can take a bird's eye view of all the suffering and problems and say, well, humanity is growing and it's all God's will, and or if you're not religious, then it's the universe evolving for the better. And that's fine, but also the next a next logical step for a lot of people is, therefore I don't need to worry about the suffering of other people, and I don't need to do anything about it. It's all in God's hands, or it's all in the universe's hands, and therefore I don't need to concern myself at all with
Yeah.
suffering.
No.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. Like I think that's so true. Like yeah, I think there is yeah, I think that's something that I sometimes fall into is I need to be more concerned about taking action on things that are not concerning me, or my mind is like not saying this right, but about I need to be thinking about other people's suffering and like actually putting in action,
Yeah.
which is something that I feel so guilty about a lot. I but I do agree, and I agree with you too, that sometimes you have to just turn it off because sometimes it's just so hard to mentally, which is so privileged to say because I'm not going through it, but
So maybe the discipline challenge might be to figure out how we can not feel guilty, but also act,
yeah.
right? And live with the contributions we're able to make to society and the people around us, and empathize and try to make the world a better place, but also not let it overwhelm us, and to be grateful in all of that.
Yeah.
Uh, to be grateful for so many. It's a better time to live than it's ever been for most of the world.
Yeah.
people like to wring their hands about how things are so horrible, but and there are some downward trends, but overall, it's a better time to live than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing to keep in perspective.
Yeah, it really is. We have so much to be grateful for. I'm listening, sorry, this is kind of a side tangent, but I'm listening to this book by Brene Brown because my mom listened to it and she told us all to listen to it. But there's this part that's so good that just stood out to me so much where she says, "We wake up in the morning and our first thought is I didn't get enough sleep, and then we think I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough travel, I'm not traveled enough, or like I don't have, and we just are so live it in so much scarcity, and it's just so crazy because we have so much stuff, and people who go through extremely traumatic events like the loss of a child or like genocide or something, one thing that they say is that they just they just wish they had realized how grateful they were for just like the small things in life, just like driving to work and like it's just the small moments in life before that tragedy happened. And it's like we never take a step back to realize like how fortunate we really are just in those little moments, just to like have our family and just to like do the small things in life is just so lucky and it's so amazing. So
Yeah.
I just thought that was such an amazing thought. I was really that was really profound to me. So
Yeah, we live in a beautiful place up here in Woodland Hills on the mountainside. And when I first drove here, when we first moved here and I would drive home, I'd think how beautiful this is. And then you get used to it,
yeah,
it becomes every kind of ordinary or just um, something that you don't think about as much. So I try to just remember, and I try
yeah,
to really take it in and appreciate where we live, and I think we can do that in all aspects of our life. This food is amazing, I'm
yeah.
so grateful to be able to taste it, um, or whatever.
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So
What book is that by Brene
it's
Brown?
called it's called the oh no. Let me look up on my Audible. It's called something with perfection in the name. Um it's so good though. I've been really enjoying it. It's called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown.
Okay, I'll check that out. Is that the one that we talked about with on the podcast? The
Is
that we
it?
were guests?
Maybe. No,
Because I know
I'm
I listened to part of that. Anyway, thank you,
okay.
Brene Brown. Okay, so here's another quote from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Quote, "The great artists, writers, musicians, and poets become great because they acquire the habit of relying upon the still small voice, which speaks from within through the faculty of creative imagination. It is a fact well known to people who have keen imaginations that their best ideas come through so called hunches." What do you think about that?
I like that idea. Like I think they're it reminds me of like in the LDS culture they talk about the still small voice a lot.
Yeah,
But
I had that primary song stuck in my head after
yeah,
reading this. Listen to the
the
still
still small
small voice.
voice.
Listen,
Listen,
listen.
listen. Yeah, that's like a terminology that's used in the LDS church a lot. But I do think that I like that idea about like listening to your own intuition really is something that I feel like I can relate to. I think it's hard sometimes to listen to your own intuition, and sometimes you have to just, I don't know, So that's something I've been trying to work on more. But I don't know. What do you think about it?
I like that a lot. I think hunches, you got to go with your intuition a lot of times when you're trying to make artwork work or even just figure out what the next step is in an art career. Many times at least I have followed my intuition many times. I wonder it how we got to creative imagination, still small voice hunches from sex transmutation. I'm not sure how it kind of
How we
just seems
got
like it just
there.
kind of switched gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, do you remember about the guy that would be hired by corporations and individuals to sit for ideas?
We are trying to remember
He had
these.
His name was Dr. Elmer Gates. He had more than 200 patents,
Oh, yeah.
and he had a room where he would go turn the lights off and sit down and just meditate until ideas came to him.
Yeah.
And then different corporations would hire him to sit for ideas.
That's
So
so
I think
crazy.
we might call that consulting today. I'm not sure, but
Wow. Yeah.
anyway, if anybody needs me to sit for ideas,
And
you
pay.
can hire me. Okay. I have yes. Okay, so you talked about mistress, right?
Yeah.
And there he brings up several kind of famous people. One of them is Napoleon. He says that Napoleon's achievements may be traced directly to the influence of his first wife, Josephine. When he was inspired by her, he was irresistible and invincible. But when his better judgment or reasoning faculty prompted him to put Josephine aside, he began to decline.
Huh.
His defeat was not far distant.
That's interesting.
I
Yeah.
think it's assuming a lot,
I was gonna say, like, how
personally.
does he know this? Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to elaborate on that or have we said enough?
I think, yeah, I don't have anything else to say.
So he lists a bunch of very famous people who he says were driven by a well developed sex energy, that it is the creative energy of all geniuses or genii. In italics, he says, there never has been and never will be a great leader, builder, or artist lacking in this driving force of sex. That is very
Absolute.
absolute. Yes, that is
Yeah.
very absolute. Can we prove that that's not true? I
No.
mean, I don't know about sex lives of anybody, but certainly there are people who don't apparently fit this mold
Yeah.
from an outside perspective. And I don't need to argue, like I would agree with Napoleon Hill that I'm motivated by my partner, right? Like
Yeah.
my love for, my desire for, like my energy for my partner is something that I put into my work,
For sure.
and so I don't mean to you know
I don't know why this,
debate this
like,
fact, but
I don't know why this comes to mind, but do you know about Enya?
the
Like,
singer,
yeah, like her
yeah,
whole thing. How about how she lives in a castle
uh huh.
and she's like never been married?
Oh really?
Yeah, she's well, fact check me if it, but she at least she's not currently married. I don't think she's ever been married.
Brian, has Enya ever been married?
I have no idea.
Can you Google that?
I can't.
Obviously, I don't know about about Enya's sex life, but like that's just so interesting to me that she just
Oh, maybe Megan found the key to debunking this, the absolutism
but it's
of
just
the.
so yeah, it's just so interesting to me how she like how she just lives like that. But if
Enya has never been married and
yeah,
does not
she's
have any children. She lives a quiet life in a castle in Ireland with her staff and cats.
yeah, see she's
Oh,
never been married, never had kids, and she lives with her staff and cats in a
but
castle.
who's her staff?
Oh,
You know?
that's so true.
Just kidding. Okay, and yeah, I am not saying anything. I don't know what your life is like, but I love your music. I'll just put that
Yeah.
out there. Yeah, that's an interesting case study there, Megan. Okay, there is a section here that says why men seldom succeed before 40. And his theory is that,
That you don't when you're in your 40s, that's when you learn how to do sex transmutation, right?
yeah, or late 30s.
Late
Before that, you're
30s.
so into like the physical expression of, actually having sex, like using the energy
Yeah.
on sex itself that you don't learn to transmute that energy into achievement.
Yeah. Wait, this is so interesting. I don't know if I should even bring this up. Do you know about I can't even say it. Brian knows what I'm gonna
Brian
say.
just got wide-eyed. What are you about to say, Megan?
About I can't even say it. About
Don't say it in a way we don't have to beep it out, okay?
Do you know what I'm gonna say?
I thought
About no fap?
Oh
Is that what
yes.
you thought I was gonna say?
you were going to say No Nut November.
Oh.
Yes.
You
Yeah, so there's like a whole movement of what
of
were
withholding your seed.
no, well not not masturbating, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a whole movement, and in many ways it's kind of maniverse right wing movement. I don't know if you've connected that, or if
Is
you're
it? I guess I could see that. Yeah.
where men are not masturbating because what? Because they
Because
want to.
because it's supposed to like I mean it's supposed to like from what I've heard, I haven't done a lot of research. It's supposed to like make you like well, it's partly like a discipline thing, right? And it's also like supposed to help you like reach nirvana or something.
What what is happening right now? Well,
At my information. No, I don't know. Or it's like supposed to help you like
are
focus
these
or
partnered
something.
men typically, or does there's not
I
a
think it's
distinction?
maybe
It's both.
more. I mean, I don't know. Cuz I mean, you can be in a relationship and not masturbate but still have sex. But then like are you getting the results though? Like if you're
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to do some research. I don't really want to research it, but no. But I remember hearing about a lot of kind of manosphere and kind of right wing groups that are putting this forward as like one of their main identifying markers, right? And like you say, proving their discipline, but also kind of retaining maybe that sexual energy and putting it into other things.
yeah, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably why you thought about it.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen people get very successful way before 40. But I do like the idea that maybe some of my best years are
Or ahead of you.
ahead. So you talked about, well, he talks about personal magnetism, and that he says highly sexed people always have a plentiful supply of magnetism, and there are 5 ways that he says that is communicated to other people. You talked about like liking to present yourself well, to dress
Yeah.
well. That is number 5 of the 5 magnetism communication methods. Body adornment is what he calls it. But the other ways are the handshake, the tone of voice, posture, and carrying the body, and then the vibrations of thoughts. All of those 5 ways are ways that people can exude magnetism and sex energy, and that's why they're the best salespeople.
I could definitely see that being true. Like,
I'm not trying to influence you with that look. I'm just waiting to hear what you say. Keep going.
I feel like, I definitely can see, like, like having a firm handshake, dressing nicely, having good posture, like that's definitely feels like the characteristics of someone who's like a good salesman and is like one of those people who's having a lot of success from sales. I don't know. What do you think? Maybe I'm not thinking deeply enough
Well,
into it.
I don't, yeah, some people just, but I see it a lot in celebrities like
Yeah.
movie stars. We just watched a movie, and we just watched the new Weekend movie.
Oh yeah.
And what's the guy's name? Barry
Kyogen or something.
Keoghan? Barry Keoghan?
Something like
Barry
that.
Keegan or
Keegan.
something.
I don't think it's
Keegan.
Keegan. I think
It's
weirder
not?
than that.
Oh.
Like, I think he just has a presence, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that was the best thing about the movie, in my opinion, was
He's in the
his
Weekend movie?
presence. Yeah.
Hot take, but I hate Barry Keegan.
Really?
Yeah.
But sometimes magnetism is like the negative pole of the magnet.
Yeah. Well, it's just the fact that he left his pregnant wife for Sabrina Carpenter while she was pregnant. Like, I hate that.
Yeah.
Pisses me off so much.
Quick disclaimer, upon doing some quick research, Barry Keoghan did not leave his pregnant wife for Sabrina Carpenter. He does have a son with his ex-wife, but that son was born a year before he split with his wife, and he shortly started dating Sabrina Carpenter after their split. So, yeah. Back to the show.
No, but here's this is interesting because did he reach a certain level of success because of his first partner, right?
Yeah.
And will he now have a downfall like Napoleon because he moved on to Sabrina Carpenter? I doubt it. People in show business do this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
People
not
do
everybody.
this all the
There
time.
are some people.
I saw something that, like, every male celebrity who gets on, like, the cover of, like, some magazine as, like, the hottest guy or something, they always end up leaving their partner, like, right after they get that cover or something.
Oh, that's the that's the golden ticket.
Yeah.
Get on the cover and
then you
choose your new partner.
Exactly, yeah.
What about Paul Rudd? Wasn't he like the times most? Has Paul Rudd been married multiple times, Brian?
I don't know, but he's really good in the new Tim Robinson movie that we saw the other day.
Well, he seems like he's got magnetism, and maybe I'm fooling myself into thinking he's a great guy, but he seems like a great guy. Okay, so there is another thing that I remember, another memory I had from the MLM days. My parents' upline talked about how he would trick himself into disciplining himself to do stuff he didn't want to do. And what he would say to himself was, my wife is going to leave me if I
Oh
don't
my
do
God.
such and such.
That's insane.
What do you think? You think that's a good way to motivate yourself, Megan?
That just seems like, I don't know. That just seems. Wait, your dad did this?
No, his
Or
upline.
his upline. Okay. That just seems really like an unfortunate way to to motivate yourself.
Yeah, and that's one reason and thinking about it and bringing it up is because I think it's maybe not a super healthy way to practice the power of sex transmutation, if that's something that you're interested in trying to practice. I think you can do it without, threatening yourself with your partner leaving.
Yeah.
Now, Napoleon Hill in this chapter talks about adding romance and love to the sex energy for maximum potential, maximum power, maximum achievement. Actually, that's how you birth genius, is what he says.
I agree with that. I think that's a great thing to say because I mean, I talk about the Wolf of Wall Street like every episode, but when like it just makes me think of like those Wall Street guys who are just banging every lady and they're married and it just feels like sometimes successful men are like that or something. But obviously that's not always the case, but I think but as we've seen with Barry Keoghan, just kidding, but I think it is like when sex is paired with love, I think that's like the best thing
Yeah.
in
and
my
there's,
opinion.
There's loyalty and stability.
Loyalty
in that,
and
right?
stability is huge, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, there is a sentence here that I would think is horrendously misogynist, except for the fact that he follows it up by saying the same thing is equally applicable to men, as to women. But he says, you might have freaked out when you read this or heard this. I kind of did a double take. Quote, if a woman permits her husband to lose interest in her and becomes more interested in other women. Oh, sorry. If a woman permits her husband to lose interest in her and become more interested in other women, it is usually because of her ignorance or indifference towards the subjects of sex, love, and romance.
Yeah.
So basically, it's your fault
It's your fault if your husband gets
if your
uninterested.
partner leaves. Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy to say. Yeah. I think that's definitely no, that's just crazy to say because I mean, obviously like in marriage you're going to have things that are and you're going to like with the longer you're together, the more you're going to like get used to each other. So it's like I mean, I just feel like you always have to be working at marriage and if you leave, you shouldn't it's not because you're not trying to be I'm stumbling over my words, but if someone leaves you, I don't think you just don't have an obligation to be like so attractive and sexy all the time.
Okay. Like I've said this before, but I'm such a huge fan of Dr. Jennifer Finlayson Fife's work. She's a sex therapist, and the idea of the kind of dynamics that we co-create, and it's never one person's fault,
Yeah, for
almost.
sure. Almost never.
I would say almost never one person's fault. And also, but I do think that sex is an important part of relationships for most people.
Yeah.
Right? And so even if you aren't obligated or shouldn't like look nice all the time, it probably helps to look nice sometimes. To
It does,
go
yeah.
on dates, do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't really. We don't need to get into the weeds in this, but I just wanted to cover that sentence and point you towards somebody that is good about this stuff, and that is Dr. Jennifer. So
Yeah.
check out her work. And I think that brings us to mostly almost to the end. I'll just read with this sentence that's in all caps at the end of the chapter. No man is happy or complete without the modifying influence of the right woman.
So, or man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, from the perspective that this was
Of-
written in 1937.
Yeah.
But if we were to restate that and analyze it based on the restatement, let's say, no person is happy or complete without the modifying influence of the right partner.
Partner, yeah.
He kind of goes outside of partners there for a second. He's like, some of us are influenced by our mothers or our sisters or whatever. So maybe partner isn't the right word there. The thing is, don't we need to be able to be complete on our own? The more complete we are on our own, the more we can bring a whole person to a partnership if we're in one,
Yeah.
right?
I agree with that, yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we aren't heavily influenced and benefited through our relationships, non-partner relationships, or anybody that we're kind of, we can be changed and motivated by deep relationships in whatever form they come. But so yeah, I don't know. I think we just need to modify that sentence. We can take the good out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, overall I like the idea of like I really resonate with with being motivated to success by your partner, because I definitely feel like that. Like I feel like an aspect of wanting to be successful because of my partner and just because of wanting to create a life with my partner.
Yeah. Is that enough? Are you missing out on a potential success principle or energy by not kind of making the most of sex and sex transmutation? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Something to
That's
think
something
about.
to think about, yeah. So,
We were thinking about catchphrases to put on a t-shirt, and we were gonna, I think what Megan says the most in this podcast is, I feel like, and then I end up usually saying something to think about.
also, have you seen like about like about people who've been watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives? They say that like people from Utah say like say Phil instead of feel,
Yeah.
or like hill instead of heel.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think if I do that.
Well, we both definitely talk like Utahns.
Yeah.
I mean, they're different. See, I just said different mountain. We often leave our T's out
Yeah.
of it, and then yeah, exactly those E sounds sometimes end up I.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people saying idea lately instead of idea.
Oh wait, and someone
idea.
you were saying someone was
Idea.
saying talking about how you say interesting. You say like interesting.
Yeah, they were in my art class. They were saying how I say interesting instead of interesting.
Oh wait, that's
But then she listened back and she said, "Never mind. You were
Interesting.
actually saying interesting."
interesting
She could hear
instead
the
of
T,
interesting.
which made me feel better.
That's
but-
so weird. I've never thought about those being so different. Like interesting, interesting.
Yeah. So at moments, I try to, when I'm consciously thinking about speaking more clearly, I will do that. And then other times I just start talking faster and code switch into Utah speak.
Yeah. Also, we should do a whole episode about the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Have
And
you watched
the
this?
success principles.
Patreon.
Yeah, save that for the Patreon.
I saw 2 episodes of the first season. So
So you haven't
I
watched the
haven't
second
seen.
season?
I would have a lot of watching to do. I'm not against doing that. I would do that if. Yeah, I could take notes on success principles. So to wrap this up, how long have we been going on this episode, Brian?
We have been going for
This feels like a very long episode.
an hour
Yeah.
and 4 minutes.
Okay.
Well, when you got to sit your daughter down to talk about the birds and the bees, you got to take the time it takes, right?
I just wanted to tell a story really fast. So one time my dad was talking about something, I can't remember, but he was talking about something and he was like, and then he said, I hope you guys don't think that sex is negative from that or something. And I said, Dad, nobody here thinks that sex is a bad thing from you. And he said, can I tweet that?
Awesome. Well,
And I was just thinking about that when I was listening to this chapter.
oh, okay. Well, I am honored. I think. I don't know. I actually got rid of the X app. I'm not on there anymore, so
Yeah.
I couldn't tweet it if I wanted. Anyway, we'll wrap this up. But before we end, if you care to, what do they say? Like, rate, and subscribe. Or
Like,
no,
rate,
like,
and
review.
subscribe.
Wait, review.
Leave a review, rate.
Something
Like,
like that. Do one of those things, whatever. We appreciate you for listening, and and comment. Yeah, I think as we're closing in, we're actually getting close to the end of this book. It would be really cool to do an episode just like a recap, like these are our good takes, bad takes, and answer people's questions, or maybe address people's comments. Like you've had in the Self-Help Hangover podcast DMs gotten some pretty interesting insights.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So if you have any insights into any of the topics we've discussed, or Napoleon Hill, or Think and Grow Rich, or your own success as it related, or your own like entrepreneurial journey as it relates to the things we've talked about, we'd love to hear from you. I think probably the best place would be to DM the Self-Help Hangover podcast Instagram account. Now, Megan is the one that checks that.
I'm the one that checks
so
that.
So talk
so
to Megan. Just don't think, don't
I know
think that it's me.
I've gotten a DM thinking that it's my dad running it, and I know I'm not as famous, but I'll still relay the message to my dad, and we'll still read them. So
yeah, we'll read them together, and if it's something that we can discuss on our recap episode, that would be really cool.
yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Megan,
Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks for sitting down to talk about, to have the talk with me.